Alrighty, so there's been a lot of discussion around Attack on Titan's new style of animation and how it stacks up to previous seasons. I'm not even going to touch any of that right now, because that might deserve its own video. However, there is something about Attack on Titan's adaptation that I've wanted to get off my chest for some years now since the release of Season 2. Namely, that Season 1 of Attack on Titan might be the best season of the series. Now, I know what you're thinking. How stupid do you have to be to consider Season 1 better animated than Season 3? And to that, I'd say I'd prefer not to be spoken to that way, alright? Golden rule, folks, remember it, words hurt. And then I'd say that it might not be an issue purely of animation, but there's a lot more that goes into an adaptation. There's directing, editing, sound design, and a myriad of other factors that play a role, and those factors are what put Season 1 above the rest, in my opinion. And to illustrate this, I want to point your attention to my favorite scene in Season 1, which, by the way, is my favorite scene in the entire show, and possibly one of my favorite scenes in anime. And I'm gonna tell you why. Minor spoilers for Season 1 of Attack on Titan. So the scene I'm referencing is during the training arc in Episode 3 of Season 1, where Eren and Armin are seeking advice from Reiner and Bertholdt about the ODM gear training. At first they decline, telling Eren that there isn't anything they can teach him, that it just comes down to naturally knowing what to do. The conversation evolves into the four discussing why they joined the military. Bertholdt tells the story of how he left his home as the Titans were attacking and how he had to leave his family and home behind. The scene then transitions from the four of them sitting in their bunks to a late night stroll. They continue their conversation while hiking through the bush, stepping over logs and fences, climbing higher and higher until they reach the clearing. As they reach the summit, the clouds part to reveal a full moon, from which light shines down on lush pine trees, the early morning dew causing them to sparkle and glow. Down in the valley, a lonely cloud drifts above a calm, still lake. The camera pulls back to reveal this beautiful landscape, stretching far into the mountains, and the soundtrack kicks in like... At which point Reiner turns to Eren and tells him that he really has what it takes to achieve his goal. They exchange names, and the scene ends. And that's what I call a beautiful scene. But there's something important that I didn't consider when I saw it for the first time. Can you guess what it is? No, it's not that Bertholdt was there. I didn't notice that until like my fifth rewatch. No, this was an exposition scene. The entire purpose of this scene was to introduce us to Reiner and Bertholdt as characters, one of which nobody even remembered, and they still managed to make it beautiful. Man, it's scenes like this that remind me of just how much of a genius Hajime Isayama is. Except there's one little thing. This wasn't even in the manga! That's right, check this out. In the manga, they just stay in their bunks. They just sit there, yapping away about their frickin' belt adjustments. They just sort of state their motivations and backstories, and then that's it. And here's the thing. For a manga, it's not great, but it's fine, I guess. For an anime, this would have been a pile of hot garbage, and we owe this change to the adaptation, I believe, to the director Tetsuro Araki. And this was the main point I want to talk about in this video. An adaptation is more than just taking a manga or source material as a storyboard and giving it motion or sound on the screen. It's scenes like this that show true vision and creativity. And it's scenes like this that litter Season 1 of Attack on Titan, and what I find lacking from the following seasons, which I might get to in a later video. It is a widely noted sin of cinema in general to have two characters just sitting and coldly exchanging information. Everyone knows this. It's bland and it's boring. If you're writing a scene meant to give exposition to the audience about the plot or the characters, no matter what it is, you never just have them sitting and talking. And let me tell you, our main man, Araki, is chiefly aware of this one. And if you look at his previous directorial work, you can see some very strong examples of what I'm talking about here. Death Note is a perfect example of this. Death Note is a show about people talking. Sometimes it's to another person, sometimes it's a shinigami, oftentimes it's just to themselves. How dog shit of a show would Death Note be if all we saw was just people sitting around and talking? It would be terrible. Thankfully, the manga author and illustrator Sugumi Oba and Takashi Obata knew this as well, which made it easy for Araki to work with when he got to adapting it. Since the main characters would often be sitting while discussing plot matters, they made the main supporting character sit in an interesting way. They also gave him a sweet tooth, which meant he'd always be playing with some weird dessert that could be used as some sort of visual metaphor or point of focus in the scene. Speaking of visual metaphor, Araki also used every opportunity to employ them, as well as dynamic camera movements. If the characters aren't going to move, then I'll make everything else do the moving for them. Are they not doing anything interesting? Then I'll make their internal monologue and thought process do something interesting. Araki knows that just blandly showing two characters standing and talking does not a good show make. This is a visual medium. We need to treat it like one. Any other director could have just taken the manga at face value and put some sound over it, but the scene in Attack on Titan, more than any other, showcases what Araki is good at. Timing. He uses editing, framing, motion, and in this case music to create an unmistakably beautiful atmosphere that elevates the relatively muted emotional tone to unexpected heights. Everything is timed so well in the scene that it's seamless. There's no wasted time on the screen. He even knows when to use still frames and the din of the forest to slow things down and help the audience focus in on the dialogue at certain points. A technique that is seemingly forgotten after season 1 for reasons that are too large in scope for this video alone, but when the crescendo hits and the music kicks in, it goes from something better than intended to something truly remarkable.
It was like a nightmare and it's painful me, 'cause nobody wants to die too fast. Remember now strange for me, I can see your face, I can hear your voice.
And the music, man, the music. There are a lot of bangers in each season's soundtrack, but the reason I think season 1's soundtrack sticks more in my mind isn't just because I personally like the songs or think they're better. They aren't necessarily. It's because Araki knows how to use the soundtrack in season 1. He chose this song specifically and matched it to the visuals of the scene beat by beat. This is what I mean by vision. None of this happened by accident. It's a result of planning on part of the director and skillful editing that allows things to flow in this way. It's genius. This is merely one example, and in the next video, I want to talk about a similar scene in season 2 that tries to hit the same beats but fails to achieve the same heights. If you want that video, hit that subscribe button and leave a like. If this video gets 1,000 likes in the first week, I'll release the second one. Also, leave a comment and let me know if you agree that season 1 is the best or which one you think is and why. Hope you enjoyed. I'm Carson, and thanks for watching BOLDcast.